Okay. Well, I have this bad boy right here. I already posted a video about this PC, but anyway, I'm currently selling this PC in Facebook Marketplace for $660 exactly. And in my post, I have stated that I'll be providing free overclock to whoever wants, to the buyers of this PC, In case they want it, they could say yes. If they don't, they could say no. And I got interested on how big will be the difference between overclocked and non-overclocked. So that's what we are going to be in this video. But first, I need to know how it performs with no overclock, a stock configuration with XMP, DOCP, and Rize bar enabled, for GPU. So now let's get into it. Guys, what do you think about my gaming setup? It's absolutely amazing, right? Well, as I'm going to be working out right now, and doesn't take a lot of time, and I do not want to be going back to my room, then coming back right here, back to my room, stuff like that. I decided to put my whole the whole computer right here, do the benchmarks, do everything with it, and then once I'm done with everything, just go upstairs to my room again and finish the rest of the video. See you in a second. I run 3 tests, Cinebench R 2024 and Heaven Benchmark. I also play some different titles to know more about the performance of the CPU and the GPU. In the first Cinebench test, the CPU, our Ryzen 5 5500, reached a score of 538 points. Which is pretty decent considering this is a mid-range CPU, but what is crazy about this part is that it reached 4.4 GHz, even though this processor is actually made for 4.2 GHz, and it was without any overclock. In the second and third test, it reached even further, reaching 546 and 584 points. Like, I have absolutely no idea how it reached 50 more points just like that with no overclocking or anything. On average, that gave us a score of 553, which is pretty solid for this mid-range, mid-low range CPU. I'll say it's more than that. In Heaven, the 3 GPU tests were all about the same. This is the configuration I use, and it reached an average FPS of 103 and an average score of 2,595. It's good considering it was 1440p cranked up. Now, the game I tested were Call of Duty Warzone, Counter-Strike 2, Valorant, Fortnite, Minecraft Vanilla, and Better Minecraft MVC5 with shaders. For the one that I've seen, that's like a mod pack with like 400 mods. I also have its own shaders. It's decently demanding, so that's why I should apply this for the people that like, play Minecraft with shaders, stuff like that. At 1080p Ultra, Warzone had an average FPS of 130 with FSR enabled, but it was falling a lot in the low hundreds, but sometimes it reached high 150 or low 107 or low 160s, depending on what happened in the game. In Counter-Strike, after a more in-depth main benchmark, I noticed that the average FPS were not 160 as says in my previous shorts where I was talking about this PC. It was actually about high 140s, low 150s. Sometimes it reached 180, 190, and in other moments it goes like as low as 120, 130. It depends on where you were at the game. When it was like really open, low FPS, close, higher FPS. That's something normal. Kind of disappointing the FPS, if I'm being honest. I mean, it was 1080p Ultra. You could like use lower settings. I may have run better. In Valorant, it was exactly like Counter-Strike. The average FPS were not 250, but actually 200 to 220. It did reach 300, but it wasn't often. I may have had problem of configuration, stuff like that. Now in Fortnite, after redoing my benchmarks, the average FPS were around 180. Most of the time stay about the high 70s, maybe like low 70s too. In really demanding moments like battles, fast construction, and a lot of shooting, It can go as low as 100, 150, but only really demanding moments. In summary, it did run pretty well overall. I think if you know what you're doing, you could make it run even better, because if I'm honest, I did not know a whole lot about Fortnite configurations. In Minecraft, it usually run about the stop. What? Stop. While editing the video, I noticed something quite interesting. The FPS shown MSI after burning and the FPS shown in Fortnite's built-in FPS reader were completely different values. When MSI after burning, it was showing lower FPS, 180s, 170, 160, even 30, 20s, stuff like that sometimes. The FPS, the built-in FPS reading in Fortnite, it was showing well above 200 FPS most of the time in average, only going lower than that in battles or in moments where there were happening a lot of things like raining, battles, and a lot of building, stuff like that, which I think is kind of normal. In the past few weeks, MS Afterburning has not worked for me in terms of FPS reader. It works really good when it comes to to seeing the temperatures, utilization, power consumption, clock speed, etc. But when it comes to FPS, it never works for me, no matter what I do. Now you're here, let's talk about Minecraft. In Minecraft, vanilla usually run about 100, 150 FPS. In higher moments 200 or even more, depending on where you bet at the game. But before we dip into any overclock and how the results in this Minecraft went, I want to give you guys a recommendation. In my T launcher, I found something called Boost FPS mod pack. There were actually plenty of them, but this is the first one I choose. Let's see how it performs. As you can see, literally while using a higher render distance and also better details in game, I was having much higher FPS. Here is so you can see how bad optimized actual normal Minecraft it is. So this is my recommendation. These mod packs that boost your FPS are really good for people that does not have a really capable gaming PC since the beginning. Even though this has nothing to do with the video, in my opinion was something like fun fact to share. So you can take it or not. Hope you like it. Now in better Minecraft, there is no more to share about this. It did run well. It stayed about the 60 FPS marks, the 60 FPS marks consistently, and it also looked pretty damn good with those FPS. Oh, right. Now that we know how the PC performs stock, let's see how it performs after overclocking. In Cinebench, it reached an average of 610 points. In the first test, it was 609, and in the second test, it was 611. I did not do a third test because I did not think it was necessary. The CPU reached a higher power consumption of 76 watts. That's about 10 more watts of our previously 66 or 65. It also reached higher temperatures, 75 degrees. I believe it did reach even higher temperatures sometimes. I just didn't catch it on camera. But as you can see, more power consumption, more temperature. But it also reached a higher boost clock speed of 4.461 GHz. 61 MHz more than before. All of this gave us a 10.31% improvement in our score in Cinebench. You know, from an average of 558, 554, 553, something like that, to an average of 610, which is not that big, but overall, in my opinion, it was a pretty decent improvement, considering that it wasn't that big of deep of an overclock. Now in Heaven Benchmark, it went from an average of 103 FPS and a score of 2594 to an average FPS of 105.7 and a score of 2663. This gave us a 2.64 improvement, which is not a lot, but we need to understand that this was mainly a CPU overclock and not a GPU overclock. So this is a small improvement of 2.26%, but overall it was a pretty decent improvement. Yeah, I know I say improvement, but don't worry about it. But now, how does this translate to gaming? In Warzone, the FPS got lower? Why? How is this even possible? Well guys, I have no idea why, but the FPS are lower. Let me redo my benchmarks real quick and tell you what is going on here. After doing my benchmark, it wasn't that the FPS were lower itself. It is just that the game is so CPU bound or CPU heavy load that the overclock to a CPU and RAM barely made any difference. I even tried to overclock the GPU, but this specific RS5700 XT is a factory overclocked GPU, so that made almost no difference at all. This was less than 2 or 3% improvement, but I did feel a little bit smoother in the 1% loads, even though I'm not able to show them, because freaking MSI Afterburner doesn't want to work. But anyway, next game. Counter-Strike 2. Even if this is a more CPU demanding game than Warzone, as we are playing at higher settings, the FPS just does not go any higher than before. There is less than a 5% improvement in FPS, making it almost not a notable difference. That said, overall the game did in fact feel smoother. Even though the average FPS did not increase, I felt the 1% load may have ended up increased a little bit, because you know, if they felt more moving my mouse around, stuff like that. So in my opinion, that's a really good plus. I don't know about you guys. I know some people want to see a higher number rather than more experience, stuff like that. But anyway, in Valorant, unfortunately, I was not able to test in real battles how the computer performs in other people. Well, because you know, Valorant sins. But the FPS did in fact got higher. It reaches 300 or more FPS with not a lot of issues most of the time consistently. And it stays well above 200 FPS most of the time. Of course, the FPS is going to be lower if you are playing with actual real people in a real match, but overall that gives us about a 20% improvement, a 10% improvement overall. If I count that you probably lose some FPS in general with real people, and the micro stuttering did in fact decrease, so again the game did feel slightly smoother. Seeing in Fortnite, the FPS difference was so small that was almost unnoticeable. Well, not that it wasn't noticeable, was unnoticeable in the numbers, but as I said before, the game in fact did feel slightly smoother and slightly more responsive, making it a much better gaming experience in my opinion. I don't know about other people, I don't know if maybe other people will be able to see the difference in these scenes, but overall, it did improve the 1% loads. Now, that's the one thing that did make a difference was in Minecraft. Going for an average of 150, 100, 200 FPS sometimes, close to 100 FPS average most of the time consistently, was a pretty good make the gaming experience much smoother, making it a 30% improvement overall. But you could literally get the same improvement by using the mod pack, the FPS boosters that I said before. Literally, you have no worry about breaking your PC, but still you get even more performance, you know? So, in better Minecraft, we did manage to get a pretty decent improvement overall. You know, like, it was much smoother. I know I've said this many times, but it was incredibly smoother in this specific moment. Like, the FPS went from 60s, 70s, even 80s, you know, to like hundreds more often, stuff like that. It did still fell in the 70s or 80s or maybe 60s or 50s when you were loading like a new zone that you haven't been before, but it was much smoother. Like the transition from a place that you were before to another one was much better than at the beginning, and overall the FPS did in fact increase maybe like for a 10-20%. So that would probably be like the biggest improvement overall in all the games I tested. Nice. But now this is all the results. Overall, it was nice. What do you guys think about it? Do you think it's worth this overclock? Do you think you could get it better? Do you think you're a better overclocker? And then you will be able to squeeze more performance out of this PC? I want you to guys tell me down in the comments. I know the improvements were minimal, but this is mainly because I am not a professional overclocker, but I was able to get small improvement. I believe maybe like 5% improvement overall. maybe like 2 or 3%. Anyway, in summary, I do know this is going to be worth unless you are really good at overclocking your computer, you know. But and then some of you may be wondering, Anders, what do you put this as an offer if you know it's not worth it? You know, if you know the overclock is not going to be that big of a difference. Well, even if it did not make that big of a difference in the number of FPS, it did make a difference in the smoothing and the smoothing and the responsiveness of the game, as I've said before like 20 times. But anyway, I put it as an optional option. In case the buyer wants free overclock, they could say yes, they could have it there, they could have small improvements. I believe it's going to help a lot in case you're doing any kind of productivity loads where you need a faster CPU rather than a faster GPU. But overall, it depends on the buyer if they want it or not. If somebody is interested in this PC, you can send the link down in the description, and it's going to send you directly to my Facebook marketplace account, where you will be able to see the PC and stuff like that. Also, in case you want me to build you a custom PC at any price range, hopefully no one asked me to build a PC with a 5090 and a Ryzen 3 Reaper 98 something. That's in that cost like $8,000. Because in that case you have to buy all the parts first, because I do not have enough money to be able to build that thing. But anyway, in case someone's interested in building their own custom PC, I am here. In case you want me to do it, I'll do it. The first 10 people that come up to me are going to receive free service. What I mean by this is that you will only have to purchase the parts. You know, the parts, well, fuck, dude. Well, the price of the PC is going to be only the parts. I will not charge anything for my service, so it's going to be me doing a free service, researching the parts, finding the best deals, and building the PC for you. You know, all you have to pay for are for the parts, and in case the shipping, which I really do not want to ship to send things right now, it's really expensive. You have to pay for that part too. Overall, it's a really good thing. It's a really good dude. It's something really good. I forgot that specific word. Anyway, I live in a town of Milford, New York, in Otsego County. In the Otsego County, I will not be shipping PCs right now. So hopefully the people, someone sees these videos that live close by me and say, hey, I want a PC, and then they come up to me, you know, and I can build the PC and then give it to them in person, or just give it to his house that does not live really far away. I think shipping of a PC is really expensive, like 50 from low 20s to hundreds of dollars depending on how far you live. So that's why, and you also need to learn how to know how to build the whole PC. That's why right now I'm currently not going to be doing that. So anyway, thank you for watching the video. Have a good day, guys. Stay tuned for my next video. Stay tuned.